Good morning, brothers of Gamma Lambda. It is my pleasure as a brother of Gamma Lambda, Michael Daniels. I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce one of our most famous alphas in Alphaism, Reverend Ambassador Andrew Young.
Thank you very much. You know, I went to Howard University and in 1950, I became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And I think I was just 18. And it was my beginning to discover the meaning of my manhood. Uh, and that was 70 some years ago, almost 72 years. And I still remember Rudyard Kipling's If,
Yes, you do.
and the discipline and the brotherhood and the sense of responsibility for each other
Yes.
was something that I think, well, it turned out that Martin Luther King went through the same thing and a little later on. But the search for brotherhood amongst men is also a search for meaning and purpose and a means of developing your sense of responsibility for all humankind. And what I have found is that right now men are wanting that we haven't found our role. We know we have a 9-to-5 responsibility, and we have children. We might even get along with 2 jobs or 3 jobs of investments. And, we are bogged down in the materiality of life, but we are disintegrating as a people under the spiritual realities of life and our inability to grasp the fact that we are not just physical human beings, we're spiritual beings. And that we have not only our political responsibility, but we have a divine responsibility, that we are created by God for a purpose. And a part of that purpose is to be brothers to each other, to be fathers and husbands to our community. And I mean that spiritually. That sometimes, well, my nephew got in trouble when he was in about 7th grade, 8th grade. And his teacher said, your uncle needs to come see about you. And I went to see about my nephew. I talked to the teacher for over 2 hours. She has yet to mention one word about my nephew. She was seeking a personal counseling session and didn't know how to get it. And I think she really did start out wanting to talk about my nephew. But she couldn't talk about my nephew because her own problems and burdens were so great. I'm here in Detroit to meet with Cornerstone School tomorrow. And part of it is to encourage and support the teachers who give so much to our children.
Correct.
And the schools they're the bedrock of the values of our society. And many of our teachers are members of sororities. And our foundation, when they named the school after my wife Jean, we started going every semester. We just go and take a lunch, something to the teachers. We usually end up doing it after 3 o'clock, after schools, but just to have a relaxed social gathering with the school. To do that with the school young people. And I can remember there was one teacher, I don't even remember her name, but she took me to the federal courtroom. Now why, I don't know, I was 9 years old. But she wanted me to see Thurgood Marshall. And she knew I wouldn't understand what he was saying. But I saw Thurgood Marshall when I was 9 years old, in the 6th grade. And I think that had something to do with him swearing me in as ambassador to the United Nations.
Yes.
20 years later.
Yes. Yes.
And I would like to see the Brothers of Alpha active in our day-to-day education.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I think of Jackson Penitentiary as I don't know. Well, Nelson Mandela used to call Robben Island Nelson Mandela University.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Emory Hood when I was interviewed with him, and he asked me,
Steve.
And Stephen Hood asked me, what did I think was the future of Detroit? And I said, I don't know, but it might be out there in Jackson Penitentiary. And it might be how we respond as citizens to this sick kid that just killed
That's right.
8 people. I don't know how many it is.
It's 4 now.
4 now. But he shot up another bunch.
Oh yeah, there's many in suffering and recovering.
And his parents bought him the gun. And it's a pretty little gun. If somebody had bought it to me, I'd have taken it to school too. I don't think I was crazy enough to kill anybody. But everybody wants to feel bad. When I look at the kid, he looks kind of confused and like he needed a big brother.
Yes.
He needed somebody to put a hand on his shoulder and say, you can make it, son.
He needed Alpha Phi Alpha.
Exactly.
Yes.
That I would urge you to spend some time each month with schools. Cornerstone schools, well, one of my favorite of the founding fathers was John Adams. And he was in part favored because he and his son, John Quincy Adams, were the only ones of the founding fathers that didn't own slaves. They actively fought slavery, introduced the anti-slavery movement, and John Quincy Adams argued the case before the Supreme Court for the Amistad, and the freedom of the Amistad led to the founding of Howard University and Dillard University and Fisk University, and at one time more than 500 schools and colleges across the South, but also across the planet. Adams College, which I'm sure was named for John Adams in South Africa, is where they founded the African National Congress that was led by Nelson Mandela and that led South Africa to freedom. Now, most of us have not made the connection between John Adams School in Detroit and Adams College in South Africa. But they're part of the same spiritual family. And, well, I got to be the chaplain in Beta Chapter. And the only reason I was the chaplain was that I was the only one in the chapter that never smoked or drank. You know, and it wasn't for religious reasons. I was trying to be an athlete, and I was too young and too small, and I just had to figure I had to keep my body in maximum physical shape. So smoking and drinking was not a part of my life. But when they made me the chaplain of the chapter, and I had to start praying for the brothers, they got very uncomfortable because I knew what their sins were. And when I'd start praying, I'd call them by name. Not the person by name, but I'd call out the sins. And I'm not trying to make a bunch of holy rollers out of Alpha Brothers. But I am trying to remind you to dig down deep and see where that concept of brotherhood, and as you're getting older, fatherhood, leads you in terms of your community service. And I almost quit my chapter at Howard, and because it was leading me to hell. Now, what it was, that
Those of us who know fraternity life, we know how it.
no, but what it was they decided that we had to be the big shots on the campus, and we had to have Duke Ellington do our Alpha dance. And we had to pay $75 a piece. Now, that was a whole lot of money. And then I was going with a girl who went out and bought a dress for $400 and paid $75 for shoes. And she was,
What?
this was in 1950. And I knew she was expecting me to buy shoes and dresses like that the rest of my life. And that drove me to the Lord. But I'm saying that manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind are the aims of our dear fraternity. Don't forget it.
Thank you, brother.
And live up to it.
Thank you, Brother Young. I appreciate this. And all the
Okay.
brothers, too. We have a piece of footage that'll always live in the annals of Gamma Lambda. Thank you.